Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar about servitization of the manufacturing industry and its impact on standardization. My name is Els, and I will be moderating this webinar. So, as usual, you will be muted during the presentation, but you can use the questions and answer panel to submit your questions if you want to. We will then, at the end of the presentation, take a look at your questions and formulate an answer. Should your question remain unreplied, do not worry, because we will upload the answers on the Sensenelec website anyway. You will receive the presentation in your inbox later today, so that might also help you. Should you be on Twitter, you're of course free to tweet about this topic, preferably by tagging us with our handle standards4EU. So maybe now let's give the floor to the speakers of today. We have two of them. We have my colleague Alina Iatan, who is project manager at the Sensax Strategy Advisory Group on Services, and also working as project manager in the Energy and Living unit here at CCMC. And we have a guest speaker. His name is Mr. Robert Tilthorpe, technical manager of the Fire Industry Association and technical expert of Sensenelec TC4 and a EURALARM board member. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Els. As Els said, my name is Alina Iatan, and I'm the project manager responsible within SEN and Senelec for standardization activities in the area of services. And I'm also the secretary of the SEN Strategic Advisory Group on Services. The webinar of today might be slightly different than other webinars that we delivered at CCMC. In the sense that we will not be covering current processes and procedures regarding standardization. But we will try to demystify in the next 40-45 minutes the concept of servitization, which I think is not easy to pronounce, but is quite easy to, I would say, to explain. So, which is actually a business trend in the manufacturing industries. So, with the webinar of today, we will cover 4 topics. Servitization as a business trend. We will explain the difference between services and servitization. We will have also a point on the impact of servitization with regards to the standards development. And Robert will provide this, let's say, a case study with respect to standards developed in the area of services and that cover also servitization elements for the alarm systems industry. A few things about services and the European service market. Services are a tremendous contributor to the economy. An estimated 70% of the EU GDP, and this is still growing. The sectors involves the supply of services to consumers, businesses, governments, and all other sectors of the economy. The traditional service industries are quite diverse, from tourism, postal services, financial services, and so on. And even the manufacturing sector has a significant service component, which is the subject of our discussion today. While we developed within SAGS the strategic plan on services standardization in 2016-2017, we identified servitization as an area of great importance for the market, but also for European standardization. Servitization was identified as one of the 4 key trends affecting the sector, together with globalization, digitization, and new consumer behaviors in the market. And we think servitization is a future competitive parameter for all European companies, large and small companies alike. Also, from a policy perspective, our role as Senelec is to support and strengthen the achievement of the European single market, and standards are referenced in the EU Services Directive as a tool, as a benchmark to facilitate the cross-border delivery of services. Hence, our focus on services standardization within SEN and Senelec. And now let's focus a bit on the concepts. There is a difference between service and servitization. Just to be clear and give you an example, the delivery of a parcel to a citizen is considered a regular service. Still, the delivery of a car to a client, to a customer, is to us an example of servitization. And we talk about the servitization of the manufacturing industry, not the servitization of the service industry. So servitization practically is about manufacturing companies that are developing a business model where value creation in services around an existing physical product lies. The delivery of a product has definitely an impact on the customer satisfaction and implies somehow a personalization of a product, yeah, to meet a client or a customer needs. Today, most companies in Europe included the servitization in their business strategy. A servitized organization designs, builds, and delivers an integrated product and service offering that delivers value in use to their customers. And technology is at the heart of servitization. Actually, while developing the strategy, we dived into this servitization concept. We found that servitization is not really possible without digitization. So most likely, the higher digitized the company is, the better services it delivers, to say so. Several studies conducted in Europe pointed out that servitized companies can easily make use of their connected technology to inform and improve use, maintenance, and repair actions for their products. And technology enabled a higher level of service delivery tailored to the customer's individual product needs, the so-called personalization of services. Servitization is a customer-centered approach which gives the manufacturer an advantage. The result of this servitization in the production processes can be a higher market share and a greater customer loyalty. So again, what is important in the servitization concept is the customer service provider relationship. These types of ongoing service agreements are no longer solely to the domain of large manufacturers. Many small and medium-sized businesses are now looking into the benefits from the addition of services to their business activities. And many are doing so in response to their customers' demands. Overall, the value earned by the manufacturers appear to increase with greater servitization. The new trends allow for combining detailed customer knowledge with operational flexibility to create the best solution for the customer, but also to prolonging product lives. Circular economy is the most relevant as a driver for servitization. Just to give you an idea, using sensors and other digital components for remote maintenance could lead to better and more stable performance of production lines. And this can increase the material and energy efficiency of machines and production lines. And we think that standards can help European companies, but also global companies, in every industry to become more consumer-centric and differentiate on services, from triggering service actions to for instance, enhancing consumer experience with artificial intelligence and from the single connected platform. Now, with regards to the new ways of manufacturer interaction with consumers, the range of these product-service combinations can be different and extended, of course, depending on the capacity of the companies, with a small engagement in the after-sales services, which could include, for instance, help desk services, training, or spare parts, to medium engagement with regards to the consulting, design, and engineering services, which are offered before or after selling of a product, and with a high engagement with respect to full process outsourcing, such as managing complete production lines or business activities on behalf of the client. Once again, servitization is a customer-centered approach. And here, as I said, standards covering service elements could come into play, namely to address challenges of the implementing new business models that focus on servitization. And standards could have an added value on understanding what value means to the customers and to the consumers, as we can set standards that provide information to the customer or the consumer with regards to what is being provided to them. Also, with regards to developing the capability to design and deliver services rather than products. Of course, this is facilitated by the use of data and of IT tools. For instance, using IoT allows manufacturers to gain a greater insight on the product's performance. The data captured can then be used to drive servitization, whether it's modifying the product to ensure a greater performance of it, or arranging a replacement for customers. Standards could also play a role in developing a service culture with a focus on excellence. In practice, this means controlling processes to effectively deliver a best cost to the customer, and implicitly an addiction to use the product, let's say, a second time, a third time, and so on. And standards could also play a role in having the staff with the right skills to deliver the best product on the market. I mentioned skills. We consider skills as a key element for servitization. As manufacturers are stepping into a space that was traditionally served for specialist service providers, and it's having a huge impact on the industry. A barrier to servitization for a manufacturing company is not to have the right skills in the current staff, or not to be able to recruit people with the right skills. And you have here on the screen the four type of skills that are key to servitization, namely data management skills, digital skills, engineering skills, and process operations. New technologies such as IoT devices, sensors, big data are also making it easier for manufacturers to monitor, analyze, and manage their products on the market. And it is well known that all manufacturing industries lack people with digital and data management skills. But those companies staffed with by personnel who are flexible, relationship builders, service-centric, technically adept, and resilient manage to get the process right and be the leaders of their sector. In the recent years, SEN has published a suite of standards covering skills and competencies and qualifications of professionals. Maybe this is not well known by technical committees setting out requirements for products, but this is a fact. And we think that standards are the right place to streamline the required competencies to install a product, to explain to the customer how to use the product, and also set out a process to manage the data collected from the customers and interpret it. And of course, upskilling and reskilling of professionals in all business sectors according to benchmarks that could be potentially set into through standards could be a subject of discussion in technical committees within SEN and SENELEC. So servitization is about expanding the capabilities of the manufacturing company to improve the experience of the end customer. And as I said, we do think that standardization should go in parallel. Standardization work should go in parallel with the industry processes, adapting to these new technological changes. And we think that a majority of our technical committees within SEN and SENELEC define requirements for product only. This is a fact today. We would like to raise awareness within our technical committees with this webinar that technical committees that have within their scope only products could expand their scope of activities also to services and cover service elements. So please be aware that within your technical committee, you can cover both product and service aspects within the scope of the committee, but also more precisely within the scope of your work item. So when you have in your technical committees discussions about the scope, maybe as, I don't know, and you get remarks from your industry experts around the table about some aspects, like, for instance, after-sales processes, maintenance, consulting, design, and engineering of a service, or IT service, or logistics, or transportation, or installation of a product, or these aspects linked to circular economy-related services. Please be aware that this could also be part of the scope of a work item. Then, of course, as technical committee secretaries, you are in contact with companies, with different stakeholders about potential new activities. You may receive a number of questions from your counterparts regarding standards development. Should you get questions like the three ones that you have now on the screen, can a product standard define requirements for service aspects? You can definitely say yes. And as I said, you can make sure that the scope of your activities within the committee includes this kind of aspects. You can also get engaged with your stakeholders and discuss what are the needs and expectations of the clients with regards to the service connected to a product. And you can also consider and give answers to what are the requirements for such a service. And to give you a bit more detailed information about service aspects that could be covered within a product standard, I can just name a few. Terminology, which is, I would say, the basic layer of sharing a common understanding between a service provider and a client or a manufacturer with regards to what is being delivered and as a service. Standards could also cover requirements on the performance measurement or the KPIs. Then about qualification of personnel, standards could set benchmarks with regarding to knowledge, skills, and competencies of the professionals in the sector, but also on the means on how to assess knowledge, skills, and competencies of the professionals. Then you could also cover good practices or code of conducts of different professional associations. And last but not least, standards cover requirements for the service provision. And most important aspects that are covered in standards reflect the information that is being to the clients regarding the use of the product to meet their expectations. Requirements on the safety or for the different steps in the service provision. But we also cover in standards elements regarding complaints, dispute resolutions and redress, and service termination. Then as a, I would say, an important aspect for you to know, we have in-house 2 useful guides regarding standardization in the area of services. One covers skills, competencies, and qualifications, how to set standards on those elements, namely the SEN Guide 14. And we have also a useful tool on how to draft standards in the area of services. What are the main elements covered by this by a standard? What is the link between a service standard and legislation in the SEN Guide 15? And we invite you to carefully consider in your future meetings or when you discuss with new business opportunities with industry, new work items regarding service standards or service elements that are covered in product standards. And as secretaries of different technical committees, when you register your work items, it would be also helpful for us to be able afterwards to identify those standards that cover service elements, that you indicate the ICS code or one of the ICS codes regarding service standards, which is 3030. And I will hand over to Robert now to explain what is the added value of a standard developed within SEN Select TC4 EN 16763, services for fire safety systems and security systems.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a brief background. I'm Robert Thilthorpe. I work for the Fire Industry Association in the UK. As said earlier, a member of the EURALARM board. I've also been involved with standardization for way too long than I can remember. This is going to give you a brief outline of fire and security standards, particularly EN 16763, and how EURALARM saw services standards as a key factor in how we can promote our businesses across Europe and the world. A quick little brief outline of EURALARM. One too many. EURALARM is a trade associations in Europe and companies. So we cover a vast range across there. We estimate about 11% of the market growth there. We have about members with 700,000 people employed, and approximately 67 billion euros is our market value in fire and security. So it's quite a large industry in some ways. What we found when we started looking at the Services Directive when it was first being proposed and established is services are a key part of fire and security. It's a key part of EURALARM members' business. We thought that possibly what was coming out with the directive could affect how our businesses work, how they work across borders. And in order to ensure that we maintain the level of quality and the quality of services that our members provide, we were looking at how we could develop a European standard to ensure that was maintained, and noted that some of the theories coming out of the work around standards and the directive right at the start was looking at grouping areas, similar businesses together, and our concerns were that we are a very specific type of business. From what Alana said so far is that, if you can see from this is the structure of how standards as a whole in fire security exist at the moment. So you can see that fire and security at the moment is somewhat ahead of the game. We have product standards, but they're all supported by application guides and system standards. So our standards, our product standards, are already linked to the maintenance of the system, the installation of the system, how you commission it, how you would work with the customer on the system, and the regimes that within the standard sets out what a manufacturer would do, what the service company would do, and what the end user does in their parts of servicing a standard. So we were quite a way down the line of servitization of our industry. What we didn't have, and this is where 16763 comes into the picture, is we had no real standards on the companies. So what is a good service company? What is a good fire company? What is a good security company? So that's where EURALARM said that's the standard we need, and started to draft the standard ourselves. So we wrote our own code in conjunction with the members to start setting out the outlines of what an organisation is, how would a service provider work, who were the staff, who were the company, etc. And then we took that to send to say, we've got this standard, can you help us deliver it in Europe? So what does this standard cover? It looks at all aspects of the product life, the planning of the system, the design of the system, which products go where, how you install those products, how you commission them, how you verify that the system you've installed works, what you do when you hand over to the end user, and then how you maintain that system. And more particularly, it looks at the company and looks at what a company should be doing in relation to their work and how they work with their contractors, their staff, how they subcontract. It also then looks at the competencies of the staff and defines 3 distinct roles within a fire and security company. And just to make it simple, we define them as A, B, and C. And it gives details of what the skills are of those people, but in very simple terms, the role A is the owner of the business or the senior technical manager that has overall technical control of any project. The role B is then the supervisor, the guy that's managing the guys on the ground, and then your service technician. So the standard looks at what they should know, how they should be trained, and how that should be coordinated across Europe. So it links the qualifications only informatively at the moment to the European qualifications framework, so that we could say that a person of role A in any country in Europe has the same capabilities as any other country. So there's no skills gap because, if you're in Germany or Poland, that person should have the same skills. So they are interchangeable. So again, it allows the free flow of skills across Europe. And very importantly, within the fire and security industry, we already have a vast series of certification schemes for companies and products. And the way this standard is structured, it slots into the existing schemes. So you don't have to create a new scheme for EN 16763. If you have your existing certification scheme in Germany or the UK, those are already incorporated in that skill. So you can have your original mark with the extra qualification added to it. So there's no extra burden in creating new schemes. So we looked at developing the standard in order to ensure that it really didn't impact greatly on our industry. We could just move smoothly and seamlessly into this new area of standards. And as we are now with TC4, we're looking at the next stage, the remote servicing of products. How do you set that out. What are the requirements for that? So again, next stage is standardization or servitization, is linking the product design, its capability, every smoke detector, every security detector can be serviced remotely. The system can be interrogated remotely. All of that is being built in EURALARM, and the trade and the existing technical committees are all on board with developing these standards. That's me.